Okay, so we're back. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class. Is Yoga Philosophy Sacred Text, Bhagavad Gita. So we have now started in the first chapter and started looking at what the chapter has to say and etc. So let's get into that. We'll do some chanting first, and then we'll look at what it has to tell us. Okay. Om Sanyanyaya Kalapena Mahata Bharatena Cha Upabrahmhita Vedaya Namo Vyasaya Vishnave Vyasam Vasishta Naptaram Shakti Pautramakaumasam Parasharatmajam Bande Shukata Tantapodnidhyam Achatur Vadano Brahma Dvibahurabaro Harihi Abhalalochana Shambhu Bhagavan Badarayanaha Abrashya Pingajata Baddha Pramshur Dandi Krishna Mrigat Bhak Paridhanaha Sarvan Lokan Pabayamana Parasharya Paramasvarupam Vivarnotu Krishnang Kamalapatraksham Punyashrabarna Kirtanam Vasudevan Jagadyonim Naumi Narayanam Harim Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So we started chapter 1. We got into the very beginning part of what he has of what the Bhagavad Gita is saying, which is the blind king is asking his bard, what is happening on the field of Dharma, on the field of the Kurus. And we were talking about how that seems to be an indication of that the king knows that what his children are doing is not actually the field of Dharma. There's some difference there. And then we looked at how Duryodhana, the son of Dhritarashtra, the blind king. So Duryodhana, who is the oldest son of Dhritarashtra. So if we look, here's Dhritarashtra, the blind king. His oldest son, Duryodhana, he comes to his teacher and he says, seeing this great army that is arrayed to fight us, that you have trained, must make you so proud. So he's rude. He's rude, and he's kind of not he's really not in a proper mood. He's nervous. And then he tries to, he starts naming all the people that they're going to face. Tough people. And then he names his own tribe and his own people that he fights. very much limited. Not very many people, right? So Drona and Bhishma and Karma 3, Kripapa 4, Ashvatthama and Vikarna 5, 6, 7. So, and many others, you know. So he's trying to build himself up here and trying to give himself some false courage, etc. It's very it's a very usual thing. It's what people do. Any comments or anything since what we've covered? Ciara, since you're so good at coming up with good background things and whatnot, anything other background stuff?
I'm sure I have questions. I have a question, but I think we didn't cover it last week, so I think I'm jumping slightly ahead further in chapter 1, so I'll raise it when we get there. But
Okay.
I don't have anything to start.
Okay, sounds good. Cindy, nice to see you. We've been missing you. Any thoughts or questions or comments?
No, I think just the only comment I have is that I think the first time or two that I went through, I think I was focused on Arjuna's fear and Arjuna's mental outlook, and that you know, there were other people who had fear and doubts and lack of courage, and I guess I'm understanding a little better that in the yoga philosophy, this can be a sign to yourself that possibly the behavior you're about to engage in might be adharmic, because if you're connected to your source, it might be difficult, but you have no doubts and no fear.
You know, this is a really nice comment. The, you know, David Goliath thing is about it's not about bluster. It's about being solid in yourself. And Duryodhana has demonstrated a weak discipline and a lot of ego and a lot of grasping for power, sensory things, etc. So when he gets here, and number 10, you know, there's a nice note here in the translation that we're looking at. There's a nice note here. Sufficient is that force of ours guarded by Bhishma. Insufficient, though, is the force guarded by Bhima. So Bhima is the second son of the Pandavas, and Bhishma is the grand uncle. He was the 8th Pleiades that was born, and he was the one that the king said to his wife, "What kind of monster are you? How can you do this? How can you kill all our children, etc.?" That she said, "Okay, you broke your vow. You promised not to ask me why I'm doing what I'm doing. But since you did, I am the goddess Ganga, and you know, these Pleiades, they stole Kamadhenu from Vasishta and were cursed to be born on earth. And after they apologized and were remorseful for their actions, Vasishta said, well, you will only be born momentarily on the planet. And I have fulfilled that by killing all of them. But this last one, who was the organizer of the whole theft, I will spare his life and I'll take him with me and train him and then send him back at age 18. So Bhishma is the grand uncle. And as a boon, he was given the power to choose the time of his own death. So he is the leader of the Kauravas because while the Pandavas have been exiled, he has been running the kingdom in the Kauravas. He's been supported by them and nourished by them, and et cetera, et cetera. And so it's time for him to pay back that, that support and that sustenance, et cetera. So he's fighting on the side of the Kauravas, even though it's insinuated that he doesn't believe that the Kauravas are the dharmic sense. So all of this talk here is Duryodhana trying to puff himself up and give false courage, which, if you're connected inward, you don't need. Right? You don't need. This little note right here is a nice note. So this passage has been doubted because of the reasons that are founded here. So if you are interested, you can find out more. Van Buitenen is the man who was the chief architect of the critical edition project of the Mahabharata that produced the 3 volumes of the first 5 of the 18 books. Then he turns to his army and he tells them all, everyone protect Bhishma. But Bhishma really shouldn't need protecting, but so in order to make Duryodhana happy, in other words, in order to give Duryodhana some courage. The word that's used here is harsham. Harsham is in Ayurveda a imbalance in the direction of joy. So instead of there being peace and satisfaction, you have elation. And elation is going to cause you trouble. So in order to give Duryodhana, joy, fine, delight, okay. Bhishma, the aged Kuru, means Bhishma, the grandfather, the great ancestor is the word Pita, the great ancestor. Roaring like a lion, blew his conch. This is technically the start of the war. So you can see that the Kauravas have not only been the aggressor in terms of trying to kill Bhima, trying to setting the house on fire, trying to kill all 5 of them, cheating them out of the kingdom, trying to humiliate their wife Draupadi, and then refusing to give the kingdom back. But when it comes to the actual violence of war, the Kauravas are also the aggressor. They're the ones who are starting the fighting. Why does the fighting get started? in order to pacify or mollify or make Duryodhana happy, which is how the whole thing has gotten started. The whole thing has been about the king being pleased. You know, depending upon your political persuasions, etc. One might view the former president of the United States, who is now running again, in a similar light. But regardless of how you think about that, this is such a nice presentation of how people and organizations get into a lot of trouble. How do they get into the trouble? The main leader figure is not centered in themselves and needs a lot of the ego needs a lot of pampering. Right? So, in order to give Duryodhana, Tasya, of him, some joy, bringing forth like of Duryodhana, the battle is started by Bhishma. Any comments? Yeah, CR.
Okay, this is where my question was. Does Bhishma, I mean, I assume he realizes, since he's the one who has trained all of them in war, that he's beginning the war by doing this?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's making that decision, even though prior to this, Bhishma wasn't part of the Kauravas.
Well, he has always been, he's been a part of the kingdom, because if you remember, let me come back to, let me see if this is called up. Yes. So here's Bhishma. Santanu's first wife is the goddess river Ganga. The 8th child, Bhishma. Then he sees his father very depressed. He takes the vow of celibacy. Then Satyavati's father, the fisherman, blesses the marriage. Santanu marries Satyavati. So Bhishma is there the whole time as like a grand uncle, as like a elder.
But I meant, if he wasn't part of like the execution or instigation of the activities prior. Okay.
Correct.
But he's just showing his loyalty as far as the current scenario.
It's his dharma, because he's been the administrator of the state and on the state's salary, etc., for the past, so many years. And so now the state is entering into a war where it's being challenged by 5 outsiders. It's just his dharma to be on the side of the state.
Mm-hmm. While you have this up, I did have some context questions.
Yeah.
So Dhritarashtra is not eligible for running the kingdom because he is blind, but are his sons eligible to run the kingdom?
So this is a great question. So, part of what happens in these stories is there's gray. And the gray leads to decisions that are not clear cut. In Chinese, they say "qing qing chu chu" de. clear. It's not, there's some, so Dhritarashtra is not eligible. So Pandu is the king. So his kids are the rightful rulers, even though Duryodhana is the oldest son of Dhritarashtra and Pandu is passed, etc. Doesn't matter. Pandu is the ruler. Pandu's kids, the oldest kids, Yudhishthira, should be the ruler.
So they get first claim, but if they weren't there, then Dhritarashtra's sons would be
Yes, hence the stay
decided.
in our vacation home made of flammable material.
Okay, so then how was Dhritarashtra able to divide the kingdom prior to the dice game? He divided it
The
and
fact
allowed
that Duryodhana is blind is also hinting that he's blind also to his dharmas. So dividing the kingdom is a non-dharmic move. It's really meant to pacify his sons. But the dividing of the kingdom, not dharma.
Okay, last one. How, I think somebody had raised this last week in the chat too. How are the Kauravas not acting within Dharma? If everything is orchestrated and the Pandavas, they're acting. I understand it's their Dharma because they are, Yudhishthira is the heir apparent. But can you explain how the Kauravas are not acting within their dharma? I would think that things are orchestrated so that this conflict was meant to happen. So they're playing their role as the aggressors.
If they were according to dharma, they would be submitting themselves to Pandava rule. Now, one of the things that happens in this class is that we telescope back and forth in the teachings. And something is being laid out, and Arjuna has his process that leads to something. Finally, Bhagavad Gita's teachings are everything is predetermined. However, within that, you still have the paradox of appearing to have free will. However, what Krishna tells Arjuna at the end is, even if you try not to fight, because of the natural qualities within you, you're going to end up fighting. So just make the decision and go and fight. But we're not ready for that teaching yet. We're just really down over here. So the Kauravas are not doing their dharma because they should have relinquished the kingdom and accepted the Pandavas ruling. but they didn't. Is that a dharmic decision? No, it's not dharma. Is it something that will then at this later stage be looked at as part of higher powers orchestration? You can look at it like that, yes. But it's not dharmic. Does that make sense? So in other words, there are no errors. There's screw ups. There's not dharmic behavior. Don't take responsibility. We'll come back. Is there a follow-up?
So non-dharmic behavior is still orchestrated, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question. Yeah.
But you're asking the end, you're asking the, 2 years from now, chapter 18 question in the first week. So, I mean, really. Does dharma change if identity changes? Of course. I mean, I'm a father. I have a dharma there, but I'm also a husband. I have a dharma there. So am I interacting with my daughter? Am I interacting with my wife? And of course, the difficulties will be when one role is conflicting with another role. And then the teachings here tell us how to navigate that. Something can be karmic and not dharmic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Harry.
So how localized is dharma? How far up the chain, right? If is your immediate, your localized stuff what defines your dharma, or if somewhere up the chain they're undharmic? I don't know. You know what I mean?
You have to give an example. These theoretical questions,
Okay, the blind king's father, who's not in the story, was actually meant to be in charge, or I don't know. I mean, so the people that you're I don't know. Maybe I can't do that yet.
So Dhritarashtra is not following dharma, and because he's not following dharma, the war happens. And because he is trying, why does he not follow dharma? Because of love for his sons. He tries to give them something which is not theirs, which results in their death.
But so the sons may be trying to be good to their father and following their own dharma.
Not Duryodhana.
No.
Sorry. Duryodhana is just he's a mess.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just say this. When you have an identity, it's something that you are. And whatever karma you come in with, that is going to play out. And you will have you will bump up against those things. The only way out of that is through the changing of your identity. Because when you're no longer Chase, or when you're no longer, when the space has opened up, all those things are still going to happen. Karma is going to happen, but because there is no longer the identification with that identity, that karma is no longer yours. You have escaped it. Okay. Esther.
Hi. I have a question, a follow-up question to the Dharma changes if identity changes question. So I thought that Dharma is rooted on the level, like mixing the models on the level of Mahat in Samkhya model. So this is my blueprint. This is my Dharma that I need to fulfill in this life. And this is my Dharma, for example, to be mother and to be a spouse. And then there will be a subset of my Dharma. And so I think it's much deeper than that. And so my identity can change, but I'm still on my dharmic path to do what I need to do, and also to provide experience to the others that I need to provide according to my dharma.
I'm just putting this out here so we can look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Buddhi, ahankara, manas, indriyas, panchamahabhutas. Buddhi is about discernment. It's the thing that understands. We're talking about Samkhya. It's the thing that understands and decides and responds. Ahankara is your identity. Manas is the thing that takes the information from the indriyas and creates the internal world. Ahankara takes that internal world and shapes it according to me. So, some portion of what's happening is that, what Samkhya is saying is change the quality of the buddhi, because by changing the quality of the buddhi, then it's possible to escape identity. Like you can't change your identity by will. Right? So one way of looking at this is that as your system becomes more and more sattvic, right? In other words, as you eliminate rajas and tamas, etc., then the buddhi's ability to discern and to respond and make decisions and all of those things improves dramatic, a lot. And then the influence of the ego, of the identity, etc., can be less. So where is Dharma? Well, I think it's reasonable to say Dharma is residing in Buddhi. It's also something is there in the identity is playing a role for sure.
It's almost, for example, speaking about Arjuna, right? He was born and his blueprint was to be a warrior. Then it's almost like his job to synchronize his buddhi with his identity, meaning that he is also aware of that he needs to fulfill this role of the warrior. In other words, it's not that the manas and ahankara drives it, right? But buddhi discern and then delegate it down.
The problem for him is that he is attached to those other warriors as his relatives and friends. And so when they die, he feels that identity as relative and as friend and is affected.
Mhm.
Anything else?
No, understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy.
Yes, in support of this conversation we just had, which arose out of the question, why would Dhritarashtra give the kingdom to his sons or split it when he knew it was for the Pandavas? I guess the idea that popped into my head was, if we were sort of trying to analyze that in the Samkhya model, that he had attachments, he had an imbalance of too much rajas, allowing for his identity to become too attached. It was, yes, a love of his sons, but attachment like love, not right. And so when you're back at the level of the buddhi and you are doing your yoga and you bring your system balancing out the rajas and the tamas, leaving yourself in a sattvic state, then the spirit can shine through and be the guiding of the discernment that I guess what
I'm
thought.
all that, but I want to just interrupt you with one thing, which is, remember, your perspective is ahankara. So
Yes.
you don't reside in buddhi. So you reside in ahankara, and as there is more and more sattva, then there is more and more capacity to step aside or
Yes.
to have an identity of distance or etc. And but the model here is not that we become buddhi. The model
Right.
is that something else in us actually knows way better than us what to do and how to do it, etc. And that what we need to do is refine the quality of the system so that that has its best expression, and that the identity is able to surrender and let all of that happen.
Right. Yes. Thank you. That the idea is that, your ahamkara, your identity that has its attachments and its aversions, that's just a structural thing that's there. And what the sattva does is it helps you be mindful of your tendencies and put them in check and allow the discernment to guide, not that.
Yeah.
So that king Dhritarashtra, he was allowing himself to be, he had too much rajas, too much attachment to his sons, and that was what guided his behavior, not his discerned duty as the
Yes.
keeper of the kingdom or the order.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just one more sort of way of thinking about this. The more rajas in the system, the more connected to the right side will be, to the indriyas, to the manas, ahankara, etc. The more that rajas is cleaned out, etc., the more that there is a connection to the left side of this. Buddhi, ahankara. So this is why the word detachment does not work for vairagya, because it indicates that you're not connected. but that's not correct. You're either connected to sattva or you're connected to rajas, or you're either connected to refined discernment, or you're connected to the satisfaction of your indriyas, etc.
And can you say more? What is the right side and the left side? What did you mean here?
Well, I just have it in the chat. Buddhi, ahankara, manas, indriyas. Pancha Mahabhuts. So the
Ah,
right side.
I
is-
have it in a few lines. That's why I did not realize.
Okay. Right. So you can, so if you take the chat and make it big, then you get 5 out to the side. You know, if you look at it from the sort of general way, it's usually presented in a vertical. So you have Mahat Buddhi, Ahankara, and then you have Manas, Indriyas, and Pancha Mahabhutas. So then the more Rajas, the more connected you are downward, and the more Sattva, the more connected you are upward. So Vairagyam as relinquishing means you're connected up. Consequently, you're able to let go of what's happening below. Okay. So is Dharma equivalent to a blueprint? No. But they're connected. So the Kauravas blow the conch. They're the aggressors in the war. And they beat their conches, they blow their conches, they beat their kettle drums, their cymbals, etc., blow their trumpets. The uproar is tremendous. Then, standing in the great chariot, yoked with white horses, Krishna and Arjuna sounded forth their divine conch horns. Krishna blew Panchajanya and Arjuna blew Devadatta. So, their conches have names. You can see here, up here. Arjuna's is God-given. And the Krishna's is taken after the name of the demon Panchajana that Krishna slew. So Bhima blows his conch, Yudhishthira blew his conch, Nakula, Sahadeva, these are all the 5 Pandavas. They all blow their conches, and they all have, the names are all given, right? Sughosha is making a great noise. Anyway, this is all just fun stuff. Plus, these are all people on their side of the battle. They all blow their conches. Etc. What happens? The noise burst asunder the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. So, even though they are the aggressors, even though the Kauravas are the ones who are pushing forward and trying to claim the kingdom for their own, and they're the ones who could have negotiated and end everything by giving the Pandavas some land, etc. And they don't, they're afraid, right? They're afraid. Then Arjuna, having seen the sons of Dhritarashtra, raised his bow as the clash of weapons began. So, I mean, the war has begun. And then Arjuna says to Krishna, to the bristling haired one, Hrishikesham, he has very coarse hair. Please bring my chariot to the middle between these two armies. Senayor ubhayor madhye ratham sthapaya mechuta. So that I can see all these people who are hungry for battle, who are arrayed, and that I'm going to fight. Ciara.
I think I had a misunderstanding, so I want to ask this. At what point does Arjuna know that Krishna is an incarnation of?
Very, very much later.
But here he's already calling him, O Lord of the earth.
Yeah. Lots of inconsistencies.
Okay, because my understanding was that he didn't realize it until later, but then I was confused at seeing this here, but okay. It's not, it is revealed later. They don't realize, like, when he goes to ask for Krishna's involvement, his support, he doesn't, at that point, he's just like, you're my cousin. I admire you. You're very virtuous. Okay.
Why would their wife, Draupadi, put her attention on Krishna and say, Krishna, please help me, when she's being disrobed prior to the beginning of all this? I don't think these inconsistencies really bother the Indian consumer. Conch blowing sound. Yes, there we go. Good. So I behold those who are about to give battle, who have come together here, wishing to do service to the evil, to the dur buddhi, right? Dur buddhi. Dur is duh, D-U-H. It's the same as dukkha, dukkha, right? Sukha, dukkha. Here you have dur means the closed, the not open, the not, sukha is easy, is spacious, is pure. The name of Nakula's conch is Sughosha, right? Su is the same su as in Sukha, and Ghosha is like a sound. So Sughosha means like a beautiful sound. That's what the name of it is, of his conch. And so we come here in 23, and what you get is dur buddhair. So this is buddhi, but a closed and impure buddhi. of Dhritarashtra. So these people are coming to serve in battle, Yudhe, in battle, the bad discerner, Dhritarashtra. Okay, so this is really important because what it shows us is that Arjuna is not of right mind. Arjuna's system is off. Because if Arjuna's system was not off, he would not be taking this step, because he's the third brother. Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna. Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna. One moment. Sorry, one moment.
Can someone repeat what Chase just said? What shows that Arjuna is not in his right mind?
I think he means positioning himself in the middle of the battlefield.
Because
Thanks, Sarah.
when we're out of balance, we take on actions and roles that are not ours to do. Arjuna's role is to follow his brother's instruction. Arjuna's role is to be a warrior. And instead, Arjuna has usurped Yudhishthira's role, and he is asking for, or he's telling his charioteer to do something which is not his to do. I think this is a really huge thing. This is a big, big, big moment. Because when we have our system out of kilter, right? And there's so many different ways of talking about that. You can talk about it as excess rajas or excess tamas. You can talk about it as chitta vikshepaha, right? Yoga Sutra is talking about it as chitta vikshepaha, the mind that is distracted or going here or there. When that happens, we very often take actions that are really not ours to take. And I think it's such a important point here because, you know, if we boil down Bhagavad Gītā and what is the teaching? What is it about? Right? It's about what action are you taking? Dharma. And more than that, why are you taking that action? Yajna. Dharma and yajna. No. His dharma was not to break the rule. Sorry. This is a Western way of getting ourselves into hot water that is unnecessary. It's my dharma to lay down a new way of thinking about things. No. So, I think that this is, early on in the teaching that Krishna gives to Arjuna in the second chapter, he's really asking him to get clear about what he knows and then get clear about what is his role in the situation based on what he knows. And then the action is clear. But here, he both doesn't know what the situation is and is not clear about what his role in the situation is. Right? So I think this is a pretty powerful example for all of us in thinking about actions and what are we doing and how do we take and what should we do, etc. Because very, very, very often the stuff that gets us in trouble is stuff where we are doing things which are not really ours to do. I mean, equally as important is not doing the stuff that is ours to do, but we'll come to that in a minute. Carol, any thoughts?
I'm trying to just take it all in. There's a lot of names and stuff going on. So I'm just trying to keep up with all the players and what's happening, and also focus on the sort of the teachings of it, because that's the part that lasts for me. It's not all the names. But I know the context of that is important. It's just a lot to...
Yeah, you don't have to know the names and stuff.
Yeah, but it gives you a good context when you're beginning, because it's the starting place,
Yeah.
But that's not what I'll hold on to. So
Good.
I love the teachings. Thank you.
Good. Julie, thoughts? Thank you, Carol.
Not a lot, but I have been finding it really helpful to ask myself what my role is in various situations. Often I don't have a role in the situation where I normally would maybe insert myself into things. So it's just been super helpful since you brought that up, that really has stuck with me. And I've been using that a lot to just sort of guide what I'm doing and not doing.
Well, without being too personal, can you give me an example?
I mean, there's lots of situations, but I guess a recent one, my partner and I both have adult children. And so just thinking about my role in my own daughter's life as a 30-year-old is obviously different than it was when she was living at home. And that's not always an easy leap to make, that, oh, she's an adult, she can make her own decisions and I'm here to support her, but she doesn't need my advice necessarily unless she asks for it. And then also my role with his relationship with his children, even though we've been together for a long time and I'm close to them, I'm not their mother. And I don't have a role in whatever the interplay is between them and him.
It's such a good example. It's such a good example. But if you find yourself out of balance, so easy to just knife in there and be like, or la 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 la.
Yes. I mean, I definitely, things bubble up and then I'll be like, what's your role in this situation? Your role is to keep your mouth shut and to let them figure their stuff out. And you have an opinion, but it is not yours to express.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. And, it's like the, in order to be able to do that, we have to have some equanimity. We have to have some balance. We have to have some sort of internal distance. That's like helped tremendously in being able to recognize, oh, is this my role or not? And, do I have something to say here or not? Yeah. Super. Great examples. Thank you. Patty, thoughts? Can't hear you.
Okay. Yes, Chase.
Okay.
This is tremendous. Thank you. I've been, my cousin's been going through a divorce, and she's been constantly asking me for help and guidance and all this. And I find that I want to control the situation. I want to make everything okay for her. And, and I find I just have to back off and just listen. And then, but I just, this is such a great text. I mean, I cited briefly way years and years ago, but I wanted to get into it deeply because this is what we deal with every day. The discernment, like, what am I doing? What am I doing it to make myself feel good? My ego? Am I trying to control somebody? And so it's just life, and it's an ever evolving. That's why it's so wonderful, because it's just a constant.
Perfect.
Because the first class, when you asked about all the different roles, and I just couldn't believe how many roles I played. I was like, oh my God, it's like list to list to list, and actually standing back from that and saying that's not who I really am. Like my soul is who I really am, not all these things that I'm doing. And then I can sit back in meditation and just go to the source, go to my home, this home in here. And and
beautiful. So nice. So nice. So the next thing that's going to be happening is such a nice comment. Thank you, Patty. The next thing that happens is that when he's out of balance, this then gets Krishna takes him. He takes the chariot to stand in the middle between the two armies. I just love this little piece here where Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Sthapayat Varatotamam. And what's he do? In front of Bhishma and Drona. Bhishma, Drona, Pramukhataha. Sarvesham cha. Sucks to get old. I can't read anything anymore. And all of these rulers of the earth. So he goes right in front of Bhishma and Drona. And then he says, behold, all the people who have assembled here. So all the Kurus, remember, they're his relatives. They're his relatives. So he sees there. Pitra means ancestors. Pitta Mahan, the great ancestors. Acharyas, the teachers. Maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends. fathers-in-laws, companions in the two armies. Senayor Ubayor Api. He's not just looking at the opposite army. He's looking at his own army. So he sees all that, all these people. Now, remember, what is he? He's a warrior. What's he doing? He's attempting to re-establish the social order of his kingdom. So what's he doing? He's going to battle against another army. And he shows up. What does he see? He sees all the relationships. He does not perceive them as an army trying to take away his kingdom. He sees them as the brothers and friends and yada, yada, yada. All the people that he cares about. So remember what we were saying earlier about when you're more rajasic, more tamasic, there'll be more connection to sensory information. So he shows up as a warrior. And what's he do? He perceives his relatives. It's a problem. And I think we'll leave it at that for today, because the next reaction is a big deal. It's so human. It is. Yeah. It's very connected to the container and identified with the container's perspective. Such a nice way to put it. Kayena vacha manasendriyaiva buddhyatmana va prakriti sabhavat karodmi yadyat sakalam parismai narayanayeti samarpayami sarvam Shri Krishnar Panamastu. All right, everybody. See you next week.